to East Malaysia to meet these amazing Sabahan and Sarawakian ladies is definitely going to be a long-lasting memory. From the roots of Mount Kinabalu to the lullabies of Semban Ring ladies, I'm Karishma. Join me in a mystical journey in search of the evergreen and still existing tales of the legends of Borneo. There's an old saying by the wise man, keep your eyes on the sun and you will not see the shadows. Well, it doesn't literally mean gazing at the sun, but focus on your targets and you will not fall for any distraction. On a bright sunny day in Sabah, I'm excited to bring all of you some exciting segments in Legends of Borneo. She said Kundasang is famous for its air tapai, but she is making Kundasang famous by being a tough rugby athlete. She has a very sweet smile, but do not mess with her in rugby turf. Anyway, let's meet her in our first segment, Ethnic Warrior. I've met many tough Sabahan ladies, but who I have next to me certainly inspires me. She is Sarah Mary Lawrence Boone, and she's a strong lady from Kota Kinabalu. So hi Sarah, how are you doing today?
I am great. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
So tell me a little about yourself, your origins, where did you study?
Well, I was born in Kundasang, but I grew up in Kota Kinabalu. And I studied in St. Francis Convent, but I moved to Salamaris back after.
All right.
Yes.
And then after that?
After that, I studied in BAC, Bridgefield Asia College, for a year and a half. But due to reasons of rugby and training, I postponed my studies and fully commit on my rugby.
So Sarah, coming to the interesting point, out of all the sports, why did you choose rugby? How did that passion start in you?
Well, it all started when I was 15. Yep. I'm actually really into sports. I did futsal, athletics, sailing, and all those. But one day, my coach asked me to join rugby. But then I was scared. So it took me maybe a few months. Then I went into training. But what really got me into rugby is that adrenaline, that team spirit. The first game of my rugby career gave me a boost up of this is really what I'm going to do.
All right.
Yeah.
So from there, how did your rugby career develop?
I started to play for inter clubs. Yeah. From before that, it was also inter club, but below it's not open.
Okay.
Then after that, I guess they spot me and they asked me to go out for tryouts and stuff like that. So I think it was about 2015. Yeah, I got the chance to play for not only my club or state, but I got to play for my country.
Wow.
Yeah. But it took a lot of practice. I trained really hard, of course. I cried like it was really horrible of training, but I'm grateful that I got to that point.
Of course.
And I'm also grateful whoever spotted me there to ask me to go to the tryouts.
Yeah.
After playing for Malaysia, Sabah actually spotted me also and asked me to undergo training in Sandakan, which was our selections and training itself. And we played for the tournament Borneo Sevens. So I played for Borneo Sevens, I think 2-3 years for Sabah. Yeah, and after that was National Sevens. Also, I played for Sabah, and from there it went more. Yeah, and then more state asked me to play, which is Labuan asked me to play. Kedah also, I played for Kedah as well.
So rugby must be a very tough game, and I'm sure you would have struggled a lot.
Oh yes, definitely. The training for rugby and for other sports, they are quite similar in some points, but throughout training, you might get injuries as well. So even through training, I got injured. The more painful your training is, the more lighter your game is. Yes, so you won't feel the pain in the end. But I had a severe injury last year. My kidney had an internal bleeding.
Wow.
I was playing for Kedah at that time. It was, it was an accident, obviously. I fell down to the ground, and the moment I realized it, I was already at the medical tent, crying. Yeah. So I had an internal bleeding after I had my CT scan. From before that, they said it was just normal. It's maybe it could be a strain, a muscle strain, or just a tissue tear, but it was more than that. It was severe. It was like internal bleeding grade 4. Yeah, so that was the worst of my worst injuries that I had.
So apart from this, what are your other plans?
So my future plans is I'm planning to restart my studies. So recently I applied for a sports scholarship in MMU. So I'm waiting if I do get that enrollment. Other than that, I do work part-time jobs. I also took coaching, and I do coach and teach girls from my Kiki Sharks rugby.
So besides playing rugby, is there something that you love to do, Sarah?
Yeah, I do travel, and I guess singing. Yeah.
Singing?
Yeah, I do. I like singing.
Can you sing for us today?
Sure, why not? But now?
Yeah, of course.
Sumandak sahabat mana kau mau cari, semua lawa-lawa pandai masak lagi, muka cantik memang tidak lari, pandai lagi dari kaum lelaki.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Oh, gosh, that was spontaneous.
That was beautiful. You're such a Malady one.
Thank you. Really?
Yeah. All right, Sarah, it was really fun to have you with us today.
My
and I really
pleasure.
hope you recover and you get back to rugby.
Thank you.
And I also think you should consider into singing.
No. I'll think about it. I'll have that in mind. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So thank you so much for being part of our Ethnic Warrior segment. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Identity is very important for any individual around the globe. In this modern world, there are still many people who are unaware of how important is proper origins documentation. And that's what our next guest is trying to rectify. Let's meet her in our next segment, You're the Woman. Here I am with Marian Baltazar, human rights advocate. She may look like a very sweet person, but she's engaged with many serious issues related to Sabahan. So, hi Mary.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, so tell me a little about your origins.
I was born here in Kota Kinabalu. I grew up here my whole life. I went to school here in St. Francis in primary school, and then St. Michael Pinampang, which is my mom's hometown. And then I furthered studies here as well in University Malaysia Sabah. So growing up as a Sabahan, I'm very blessed to be around people of so many backgrounds. When I was growing up in St. Francis and in Pinampang, it's like two different areas. So I got to see the suburban, mixed around with suburban as well as city kids. And I really like that we can all mix together. So it's not because everybody comes from different backgrounds. And as well as myself, sometimes people they're a bit confused. Like, oh, you're Filipino. Like, yeah, Filipino Kadazan.
You're Filipino Kadazan.
Yeah, but I think when you go around with Sabahans, I think almost everybody's mixed somewhere. Yeah.
So you're a human rights advocate and you fight for a lot of statelessness in Sabah. Can you explain to us actually what's the situation like?
So actually, I got to know about this issue when I was volunteering. When I first volunteered with Good Shepherd, it was my youths that I was teaching, where they volunteered for a school for stateless children. And then at first, growing up, I always look at these children as, how to say, the children in the streets, dirty, always asking for money. But when I saw my youths playing with these children, then I felt ashamed. And I realized they're children like no other. So through that, I had this moment where I realized they are just children. And then why aren't they getting proper education? Why aren't they getting proper health care? So even in Malaysia, I mean in Sabah, sorry, about one third of the population is non-citizen.
All right.
Yeah, and then so children who are stateless, who do not belong to any state or any country, the numbers are about 30,000 to some would also say until 300,000. So it's a big population of children who are not able to access basic healthcare and basic education. It's an issue that is very glaring here in Sabah. But I think it's important for us to look at them as children and not anything else.
I know how my card is important to me, but how does it affect many adults out there who do not have such documentation for themselves?
Okay. So I think as Malaysians citizens, we realize that everything we do needs a my card, right?
Yes.
Opening a bank account, registering for school, registering in the hospital. I think a lot of our services needs a my card.
True.
So without a my card, or any documents, it means they don't exist.
True.
There's no identity. They don't appear anywhere. So they belong nowhere. So if they're lost or anything, it doesn't matter because they're not in any documents. They're not in any papers. So there's no identity. Yeah. It's very a tough life for them. Even though they grew up here, one of them might have a citizen parent, but they can't do anything
As much as anybody else can do with a my card.
Like after we have some who are able to go into school, but after they finish school, they cannot further their studies. They cannot get a job, a proper job. So they are very vulnerable to abuse, very vulnerable to. They're stuck in poverty because they cannot get good jobs. Yeah.
I know the depth of the issue. So what are the steps being taken to overcome the situation?
In Sabah, there's actually a lot of good people who have opened up schools. We call it alternative learning centers. So we have a lot of people, individuals, organizations, churches, madrasah, where they open up spaces for these children to be able to get at least basic education. Yeah. So and other than that, there are some NGOs who are working with these people to help them get some sort of documents. So if their parents are from Indonesia, they try to work with the Indonesian embassy, consulate. And the government recently has also had an initiative to allow children who have at least one citizen parent to go into school, and as long as they are going to apply for citizenship. But I think sometimes people just don't know how to apply, so they should try to look for NGOs to help them, because sometimes the scary part is there are also syndicates who are taking money. Yeah, so for those who need help, it's good for them to go to NGOs. Yeah,
and look for help when they need to.
Yes. And recently, in the Education Minister's Facebook, he did a very nice video where two undocumented children interviewed him, and he said in his Facebook that how in his tenure as an education minister, he will ensure that all children, regardless of documentation, to be able to get education. And I'm so happy with that. Because I believe all children should have a chance at education, to have a better life in the future.
Now we know the depth of the issue. So what are the challenges to fulfill the mission?
I think one important thing is everybody, the public. We have to first look at this as a children's issue. That a lot of children are not able to get education or basic health care or a chance at the future just because of the status of their documents.
True.
Yeah.
So I understand that you're doing many noble things for the underprivileged people right now, and I'm sure you're being recognized well outside. So can you elaborate more on that?
So in 2016, I was awarded the JCI Most Outstanding Young Sabahan Award for my works in human rights, children and human rights. And then I received a vocational award from the Rotary Club of Kota Kinabalu. And I think the most recent is a research grant award to do research on statelessness. So I'm doing my master's research on the issue of statelessness of children in Sabah. A lot of prominent people are also, they believe in the work that I do. So I was able to meet the past President of United States, Mr. Obama, during his visit here, official visit to Malaysia. And also I was also presenting about human trafficking in the Vatican City and the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences, where I was able to meet the Pope Francis. Yeah. And all other young, amazing people who do works on human trafficking. I hope with all this exposure, I hope I will be able to also really affect the situation on the statelessness of people in Sabah.
So Marianne, it's amazing to see what you're doing for the people out there. You've showed us how important an identity is, and thank you so much for sharing with us, and we wish you all the best. And thank you so much for being part of Legends of Borneo. You're the woman who inspires me and many women out there. Thank you so much, Marianne.
Thank you so much also for you and your team that have given me the privilege to share this story to you as well as everybody else who is watching. So me and my team at Anak, we will do our best to help however we can. But it also takes you people out there to also join us together in these efforts to end statelessness in Sabah as well as the whole Malaysia. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Second World War, Australian and British prisoners were imprisoned at Sandakan by the Japanese army. Only 6 came home from 2,500 prisoners in Sandakan. Let the rural ravens spread their wings and get more details of this tragic historical event. Established in 1962, this was one of the first memorials to commemorate the brave Australian and British prisoners of war who died in Sandakan and during the infamous death marches to Rana during World War II. Kundasang Memorial Garden was built and funded in the late 1950s by the people of Sabah and the local expats. Many of them had served with Allied forces during the Second World War. It was dedicated to those men and women of all races who gave their lives for and in Borneo during the war. The memorial is made up of 4 beautiful gardens: the Australian Garden, the English Garden, the Borneo Garden, and the Contemplation Garden and Pool to represent the different nationalities. This site was selected as here in the shadow of Mount Kinabalu, many prisoners of the war perished. According to the local customs, the mountain harbors the souls of all those who have died. The memorial also remembers the people of North Borneo who risked their lives to help the prisoners of war. Its towering pine trees and blooming roses, a walk in the gardens is reminiscent to that of a stroll in a quaint English garden. The scent of roses lingers in the air, and the serene atmosphere makes the Kundasang War Memorial an ideal place to contemplate and remember the heroes of the war. Visitors can also opt to view a brief video on the history of Sandakan Death March. The rights of men are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. And one of the basic rights of a man is his citizenship. It can assure you of the common benefits offered by your nation. As much as we are proud of our tradition and culture, every man must practice his common rights to live a better life. Till I meet you again, I'm Karishma and this is Legends of Borneo.